This is a 3500 milliamp hour 6S lithium polymer battery, and this is a 3000 milliamp hour 6S lithium ion battery. And you probably noticed that the lithium ion battery is a lot smaller and lighter than the lithium polymer battery for about the same milliamp hours and about the same watt hours. So why don't we all just use this? It's smaller, it's lighter, and it's got the same specs. The answer is C rating. Traditionally, lithium ion batteries, yes, they have better energy density. They do give longer flight times for the same amount of weight, but they can't provide the same peak power. So when we need to draw a lot of power, we use lithium polymers, and when we need maybe not to draw quite so much power, like a long-range cruiser or an airplane where there's only 1 or 2 motors to spin instead of 4, then we use lithium ions and we get longer flight times. This is a new kind of lithium polymer cell called tabless cells, and without going into the technical details of what a tabless cell is, I'm not even sure I could explain it to you very well. Basically, tabless cells are supposed to be the best of all worlds. The same high energy density and long flight times as traditional 18650 cells, but with the high current capability of lithium polymer batteries. And so the question is, like, can you really get everything you want? Is this just better in every way? No more trade-offs, no more compromises, just buy these. Well, that's the claim. We're going to put it to the test. I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something today. Before we get into the exact way that I'm going to run this test, and some of you aren't going to like it, I do want to let you know that these are JP30 cells. And again, tabless is a very new technology, and I'm just coming up to speed on it. But one thing I do know is that there are some cells that have tested very, very well, and there are some cells that tested very well only when the manufacturer did it, and then they went into production, they tested worse. And long story short, tabless cells are kind of the Wild West right now. So maybe you've heard of JP30 cells and you're like, oh, those are the good ones. And maybe you've heard of JP30 cells and you think, oh no, those are terrible. But here's my point. I don't think you can draw too many conclusions. Just because one person or one manufacturer did a test of one batch of cells doesn't let you reliably predict, at least not yet, how a pack will perform in the real world. But NewBeeDrone is selling this pack, and so presumably NewBeeDrone got their hands onto a batch of JP30 cells, and so at the very least, you can conclude from this test how this specific pack is going to perform. Now, the scientific way to test these cells would be to put them on a battery test machine, discharge them at a constant current, and see, well, that's the thing. Because discharging this battery at a low current won't tell you anything meaningful. We know that batteries, that 18650s, that lithium ions perform really well at low current, and we know they beat lithium polymers at low current. Here's the thing. In order to really test this battery and show what it's supposed to be good at, we have to put it, discharge it at high current. And the battery test machine that I once upon a time had that could do that, I sent it to Chris Rosser because he said, I want to do some testing. I want to set up a lab. I sent it to him. He's got it. In fact, I'm going to see if I can get one of these batteries into his hands so he can do the testing. That may not happen by the time the video releases, though. Instead, we're going to do something more sort of like seat of the pants. This is going to be my battery test machine. This is my 7-inch drone, and I typically run it with this 6S 3500 battery. And it pulls like some amps. And just to really make the battery be stressed, I'm going to put this 2.5 pound weight on the drone, add a little bit of weight, and I'm going to take these two batteries out and I'm going to just hammer them and see how they perform. And hopefully, at the very least, we'll be able to draw some rough conclusions about whether this claim is just total BS or not. Like, I think if the NewBeeDrone battery doesn't fall flat on its face, then it will have done something that a traditional 6S1P lithium ion could not do. Okay, that 2.5 pounds, you could definitely feel it. But you know, like, I'm not sure that this 7-inch would be working hard enough with no weight on it to really show the difference between the batteries. We're gonna find out. Oh, she's working. I mean, so I'm at 38% throttle instead of like 0%. But here's the first thing I'm going to do. As soon as I took off, we went from about 4.2 to 4.0 volts. I'm going to do a full throttle punch out. and really hold it, we drop down to about 365, 36. I'm not sure exactly because I was paying attention to the flying. But I want to see how much voltage sag I'm getting on the full throttle punches. 398 to 360. She gets up there. And oh, I wasn't even looking at the amps, how many amps I was pulling, but let's do one more. We'll look at the amps. We're pulling, I don't know if this is calibrated, but it'll be the same between both the batteries, pulling about 25 amps in a hover and 120, 112 amps in a punch out. That's great. I gotta fix this RSSI low. You can ignore that. It's not actually low RSSI. The Betaflight threshold is just set wrong. And now we're gonna just fly this and we're gonna see like how much actual flight time I get. And I'm gonna try to like really keep the throttle up for the whole thing. Yeah, we're gonna make it work. See, we're pulling 60-ish amps here, 50, 60 amps, which is supposed to be the continuous rating for the NewBeeDrone battery. It's supposed to be rated 60 amps continuous and 100 and something amps, 160 maybe, peak. So we'll really be able to put that to the test. Now again, this is, I don't know that this is a calibrated 60 amps, right? It probably isn't calibrated, but it's going to be comparable between the two. So we'll just stay in the throttle here and run the battery down. We'll go a little lower. We can go a little lower still. I feel okay with it. 343, 341, 340. All right, that's pretty much as far as I would usually push a battery, and it'll rest at 3.5. We could definitely go a little longer, but not under load. Let's call that good. We got about 4 minutes of fly time and 3,000 milliamp hours. That's pretty, you know, that's what the battery says roughly we should get. So that's cute. She's not real happy. She's not happy with me. I don't know if you can see, but we got a little bit of puffing. This is not like a brand new battery. It hasn't been like abused or over discharged, but she definitely felt it a little bit. Not an excessive amount of puff, but a little bit of puff. It'll be okay. I am really hard pressed to believe that this little dude is going to be able to perform as well as, like, just, right? It says right here, 60 amps continuous, 160 amps peak for 10 seconds. It says it right there on the label. Here we go. So immediately in a hover, with the other battery went from about 4.2 down to about 4.0. Here we're at 3.8. Immediately, just in a hover at 20 amps, we are having more sag. Approximately twice as much sag, 0.2 versus 0.4. So we can guess what'll happen when we do a punch out, but let's go ahead. So we only got 95 amps there instead of 100 and something amps. And it sagged much lower. But here's the thing. This battery can go all the way down to 2.5 volts, whereas a traditional LiPo can go to 2.0 or 3.0. So when you see this battery sag down to 3.2, that's actually not that bad. I'll do a third one, just on principle. It's hanging 3.8. I mean, it's staying in there. It's not getting quite as high. The voltage is lower and the amps is lower, so we're not getting as much thrust, but like, it's not just falling off a cliff. Let's get it. And there's some question of what I'm gonna fly this down to, because the voltage curve of this battery is different. it drops off a cliff around 2.7. Historically, that's what I've found, with 2.5 being the absolute minimum where it just is damaged. That's comparable to 3.0 on a traditional LiPo. So if we flew a traditional LiPo down to 3.5, in my experience, that's roughly comparable to about 3.0 on a lithium polymer. So, let's see how we do. Oh, I can feel it sagging. Let's see here. We're pulling higher amps almost. Now, depends on where I am. It's about the same. 3.1. 3.0. 3.0. We're still hanging above 3.0. That's roughly equivalent to 3.5 on a traditional LiPo. Still hanging above 3.0. We're gonna keep going. 2.95, okay, so we're getting close to the end. 2.8, yeah, okay, I'm gonna call it here. Somewhere around 2.7 or 2.8 is when the voltage drops off a cliff and you risk losing a cell. And now we're holding at 2.9, or, so those are two very comparable flights. The flight time about the same between them, holy crap. Ooh, she is spicy, oh. Ooh, she's spicy, boy. That is a warm battery. That is warm. Wow. This won't be a perfect measurement because this black won't reflect the light, infrared light quite the same, but we are at 72 Celsius. Ow, it is uncomfortable to my hand if I touch some parts of this wrong. 72 is the peak that we're getting. 78 Celsius, 75. Oof, yeah, no, that is not comfortable. And hold on a second.
Operating temperatures for the JP30 Tabless 18650 cell can go up to about 75 degrees Celsius, and some sources mention a thermal cutoff at 80 degrees Celsius. Just a reminder that I can't provide medical advice, and that you should always consult a healthcare professional.
Oh, well, according to Gemini, that's actually an okay working temperature. Has it continued to rise? No, it's going down, so it's peaked. I just got one reading at 72, but for the most part now it's reading in the 60s, so it has peaked out. Holy crap. Well, that's just one test. It's too soon to say, like, that this is definitively able to replace a 3500 LiPo, but definitively it did way better than I thought it would. Here's a conclusion that I feel comfortable giving you at this point based on a sample size of one, both in terms of like how many tests I've done and how many packs I've tested. This battery is definitively better than any other 18650 size pack, 6S1P 18650 size pack that I've tested, including quote unquote high discharge cells like the MOLLE P42A, I believe it is. That cell has a 45 amp rating, and I've done tests like this and concluded that it's not in the same ballpark. It just falls on its face compared to a LiPo as soon as you start pushing its amp rating. This one has a, on paper, higher amp rating and also did not just fall on its face. Like, it was close to its operating limit, and we could have, like, I wouldn't use it for drone racing where you're just all the time, but that was a fairly high sustained amp for the entire pack, and it gave comparable flight time, and it stayed within its safe operating margins. I would feel comfortable positing, based on this sample size of one test, that this is a better pack a better cell than any I've tested before when it comes to higher discharge. It's probably still not going to hit the same peak discharge as a LiPo, especially when you consider that the voltage was lower throughout the pack. See, so if you're concerned about peak power and peak RPM, that lower voltage means your motors are going to spin slower, means you're going to get less thrust and less speed. If you're really concerned with peak, you need the voltage to stay higher. Even at a hover, even at full charge, we were at 3.8 instead of 4.0 volts, we were losing volts. But in terms of ability to just deliver current and keep the airplane in the air or the quadcopter in the air for significantly less weight, this is about half the weight of this one. I don't have a scale here, but just roughly. You could get 2 of these guys, 6S2P, in roughly the weight and size of one of these. And then you've got twice the flight time at comparable current capacity. That's hot. This has got potential. If you want to pick this battery up, it's available from NewBeeDrone. There is a link in the video description below. And if you're curious about how traditional 18650s stack up compared to LiPos, I've got a video where I did that comparison, and you can see, well, number one, what's the big deal with lithium? Why did anybody consider them before this? Well, they still had advantages. You just had to play to their strengths, not their weaknesses. I did a video comparing the two, and I'll put a card on screen and a link in the video description below if for some reason you can't see the card. See you there.